Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, we've got feelings, and you know what that means. Yes. It's time for another Not Sam Wrestling emergency podcast because Monday Night Raw has concluded, and I don't know about you, but I have feelings. So for those of you that don't know, maybe you've been living under a rock, maybe you are still a slave to traditional television, but I will tell you this. Here's the problem with traditional television. Sometimes when you do it live, the channel turns off the show to go on to Silk Stockings or Murder, She Wrote or La Femme Nikita or whatever else was on. Because I didn't realize this where I was watching Raw, but I came home and I checked my DVR, I checked my YouTube TV, and it was Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio staring each other down, and La Femme Nikita came on before anything else had happened. But you know what I knew had happened? The Kiss heard around the world. I am coming to you now looking like $1 million because I'm fresh out of Stamford, Connecticut, where I was just doing Raw Talk. Now, when we do Raw Talk, we have the ultimate privilege, I say we, meaning myself and Megan Morant, have the ultimate privilege of watching the truck feed of Monday Night Raw. It takes me back to my younger days as a tape trader when you would try to get the satellite feed of the SmackDown taping so you could get it before any of the edits or anything happened. Or like you get the Raw satellite feed and you could hear commentators saying things during breaks. We don't get the commentators saying things during breaks feed, but we do get the truck feed while we watch Raw. So Megan and I saw this kiss happen live and we lost our minds. And for those of you watching on YouTube, I have the footage. This was right. We didn't even know the cameras were running. So this is legit. Before Raw Talk was on, while Megan and I were on set waiting to begin the live Raw after show for Peacock, this was our reaction to watching Liv and Dominik embrace for the first time.
Oh my God.
Oh my God!
What? Oh, let's go.
What?
Let's go.
And there you have it. That was the reaction that we got as we're watching live and this thing happens. And then a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes, whatever. Raw Talk comes on 3 or 4 minutes after Raw goes off the air. And we were not sure if that had aired or not. But we knew whether it aired or not, that footage is getting out there. It'll be online. So we reacted to it in real time after that, like on the show, as if it had happened. But then I got home and I saw that it didn't air for whatever reason. I don't know how cues were mistaken or whatever. But thank God we live in an era where we have the internet and we have the WWE's YouTube channel with 102 million subscribers, probably going to be 103 million subscribers after this, because we get to see the huge story beat in this story that has been building for quite some time. I mean, you could say that it's been building since Thanksgiving of 2022. Thanksgiving of 2022 is when this all kind of started. Dominik Mysterio had already gone bad. And it was like, okay, we'll see how this works. We saw what he could do as a babyface, kind of amazing that he's come from nothing, gone right onto the main roster. He's been tagging with his dad. He's a kid. We'll see what happens. He turns heel. It's like, okay, we'll see what happens. Rhea Ripley and Dominik Mysterio invade the Mysterios' home. And Dominik ends up getting arrested, and he ends up spending like 2 hours in jail. And he shows up on Raw on Monday, and he's basically Prison Mike from The Office. He's got a teardrop tattoo. He's now dressed in Conan flannel. He looks amazing. And he took it so seriously. And then the members of the Judgment Day around him, this is key, the fact that everybody in the Judgment Day took him incredibly seriously. Like, no, he has done hard time. No, he has been in jail. And then Rhea Ripley took on the role of Mommy. And we all fell in love with this idea of Prison Dom and Mommy being this couple. And it elevated It was what Rhea was doing as she was elevated into levels of superstardom, the likes of which she had never seen. It definitely, whether that would have happened or not, regardless of Dominik, you could debate that, but it definitely is what turned Dominik into a megastar to the point where he can't even speak in arenas without getting booed out of them because people are paying money so that they can boo the glorious, great Dominik Mysterio. And as time goes on, he gets more thugged out. He's getting tattoos now. He starts to adopt more and more of Eddie Guerrero's, heel Eddie Guerrero's signatures, whether it's in his gear. He starts to grow his hair out, and then he grows it into a mullet. As of late, he's got this mustache. Flash forward, Rhea Ripley goes on the shelf. And before she goes on the shelf, Liv Morgan makes it clear that she's on her revenge tour because Rhea Ripley put Liv Morgan on the shelf. So when Liv Morgan came back, she said, only thing I'm here to do is to take everything Rhea Ripley has ever had, to pay her back for the fact that she interrupted my career. And Rhea Ripley ends up getting injured. And she goes, well, while Rhea's gone, I'm going to take everything. And some of us started shipping Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio. I'm not going to lie. Some of us started shipping, myself included. Coming off of the King of the Ring pay-per-view, King and Queen of the Ring premium live event, there have been a lot more people going, what if they do a custody of Dominik match at SummerSlam? You could go back about a month, maybe 6 weeks longer to when that idea was presented on Not Sam Wrestling. We've been on this for a very long time. If you like the things that you hear on your various wrestling podcasts, you should come check us out more often. Usually you'll hear them first. So we start seeing that this is becoming a reality. On 1 week on Raw, Liv Morgan, Dominik Mysterio appears to have a bandana around his neck. He's now missing the bandana. And then pictures come out from that episode of Monday Night Raw, and Liv Morgan has the bandana in her pocket. We go, what is this all about? The week before that, somebody had been cutting a promo. Liv Morgan walks out of the room, several yards, 2, 3, 4 yards behind him. And Dominik Mysterio, 30 seconds later, walks out of the same room. What is going on? As we got closer to the King and Queen of the Ring premium live event where Liv Morgan was getting her championship opportunity against Becky Lynch, the ultimate revenge, or so she said, against Rhea Ripley, we start to see more and more. We see Liv Morgan and Finn Balor getting out of the same automobile. This week on Raw, we saw Liv Morgan and JD McDonough having a conversation, which JD passed off as nothing. But push came to shove when at the premium live event, Dominik Mysterio shows up on the Countdown show, and we see the interaction between Dom and Liv. We had seen this interaction once before. Before all of this started happening, we just saw a stare down between the two. And you wondered, is the tension that I'm seeing tension where Dominik is mad at Liv Morgan for what she did to his mommy? Or is there more to this tension? Is that palpable tension something much more? So now we see that same tension exist on this Countdown show. And by the way, how about props to Dirty Dominik Mysterio for being this superstar with such riz, such a primal sexuality that he's able to convince the world that first Rhea Ripley, now Liv Morgan, I mean these women that wrestling fans put on a pedestal, think the world of the great Dominik Mysterio. Only Dominik Mysterio, like the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels before him, could be the one to pull it off right now. And pull it off he is. Because Dominik, he has that tension with Liv at the premium live event, and he says, I'm here to make sure you don't win mommy's title. And then he throws the chair in, he distracts Becky Lynch. Liv is able to take advantage of it. We get to tonight, we get to Monday night, and Dominik Mysterio shows up during the cage match. And he opens the door during this cage match between Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan, Becky's return match for the championship. And he says, come on out of the cage, Becky, you got this. And the Judgment Day shows up. They go, what are you doing, Dom? What are you doing? And then Braun Strowman shows up. Now, Braun Strowman has been chasing JD McDonough, and because he's with JD McDonough, Finn Balor around the arena all night. It's just beautiful the way this has all been set up. where Dominik was nowhere to be found at the beginning of the show. But because earlier in the night, we set up Act 1, which was Braun Strowman interrupting the Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest, Judgment Day thing that was going on so that we could start the JD McDonough match. Act 2 was Braun Strowman getting involved when the Judgment Day got involved in the Carlito-Rey Mysterio match. And then Act 3 is what enables you to tell the story of Becky and Liv and Dom. You know, these are two separate stories, but because they're intertwined, we're able to make sense of everything because Braun Strowman chases Finn Balor and JD McDonough around the ring. They leave, but Dominik is still there, so he shoulder checks Dominik into the door, shoving Dominik against the door. The door hits Becky Lynch, knocks her out, and while Becky is out cold, Liv Morgan is able to escape the cage, and then, as Liv Morgan is walking away, still your women's world champion, she passes Dominik Mysterio in the aisleway. She looks at him. He looks upset. He looks angry. And she grabs him by that Latino heat face and plants one on him, kisses him deep and hard on the mouth. And the fans can't believe it. They're in a state of utter shock. You saw myself and Megan Moran. We can't believe what we're seeing in front of us. We're in a state of utter shock. And then Liv Morgan releases that dreaded lip lock for Dominik to still be looking annoyed. He doesn't look outraged. He doesn't look surprised. Liv is smiling. Liv is laughing. Like, you fools, this was the plan all along. But for some reason, Dominik, it's hard to tell, looking at Dominik's face, if Dominik is upset because he doesn't like Liv Morgan, the kiss meant nothing, and Liv is up to her old tricks, or if he's upset because he wronged mommy, but he did it for the right reasons. I love the cliffhanger aspect to this kiss and the way Raw ended, because you end up in this scenario where technically Liv kissed Dom, but Dom did not kiss Liv. See, this is what professional wrestling is all about. People think it's moves. People think it's high spots. People think it's physicality and violence. No, it's kissing. It's who kissed who and why. Liv kissed Dom. It didn't appear that Dom necessarily kissed Liv back, and therefore, does Dom still sit there and go, I don't know what this Liv Morgan was doing. She, like many women, find me irresistible, but this was not something I expected, asked for, acted upon. You know, this is the first time she's ever done that. Let me tell you something. I hope she never does it again. Patooey, yucky. I don't know. Or does he say, yes, I'm ashamed to say it, but I have found a new love in Liv Morgan. Does he say that? Who knows? There are a million things that he could say. And I think that this will play out a little bit because you heard JD McDonough. He's talking to the Judgment Day. And he says, the thing about Liv and I is I was saying, you're not going to hold on to that title long, Missy. Now, I watched their interaction behind the backs of the superstars that were actually cutting their promos. And it didn't look very hostile. I don't tend to believe that that was the conversation that JD McDonough was having. What I do like is that the way that stories are elevated now, we can see where things are going, right? It's like in the beginning, it's just for us that are paying attention. And then everybody gets brought on board, and then the execution happens. Meaning, in the beginning, all the stuff happening in the background with Liv and the Judgment Day, that was just for us. Us super fans, us podcasters, whoever us is, it was just for us. Then it got acknowledged on TV this week, today, on Monday, when Damian Priest said to JD McDonough, I saw you talking to Liv Morgan. Because if you had seen, we weren't in the studio yet. We were in the green room watching Raw. But Megan and I, when he said, I saw you talking to Liv Morgan, we both went, oh, because it had now been acknowledged on television the same way when Michael Cole and Pat McAfee and Corey Graves and Wade Barrett started acknowledging the QR codes. It elevates the Uncle Howdy story. When Damian Priest acknowledged the conversations that were happening with Liv Morgan, it elevates that story. So where is this going? Because while yes, I early on talked about the poetic justice of another SummerSlam where custody of Dominik Mysterio would be on the line. I think based on the entire scope of what's happening in front of us, it's probably going to be much more than that. I think that when you look at the Judgment Day, we are now looking at a faction that is really based on the actions of Damian Priest. All members are portrayed very differently. Carlito is just the guy who's hanging around. He's not even an official member. Dominik is always going to be Dominik, just goated man of the century. But sometimes his plans don't go as he would have them go. Finn Balor, JD McDonough, they appear to be buds, but they don't quite get the jobs done either. The only one in the Judgment Day right now that gets a job done is the World Heavyweight Champion, Damian Priest. And where the Judgment Day used to be this group that you couldn't penetrate, now the members around Damian Priest are being portrayed as more of a hindrance to the World Heavyweight Champion. Also, I don't think there have been any hints dropped about any sort of relationship between Liv Morgan and Damian Priest, or any conversation between Liv Morgan and Damian Priest. And the reason for that is, heel or not, it would appear to me that Damian Priest is being portrayed as the only member of the Judgment Day that has integrity, that means what he says, that is not misleading, that does not have some other game plan, that is being straightforward and honest and trying to dominate the way they've been dominating. With those characteristics, he's wrestling Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle. I feel like Damian Priest is well on his way to being a full-on babyface. I think what we're seeing is Liv Morgan finding the weaknesses of the members of the Judgment Day. I think Liv Morgan is realizing that Dominik can be wooed by a woman. It really didn't take Rhea Ripley much to woo Dominik away from his entire family. And if that's the type of fella you are, it may send a message to other malicious women that you're wooable. And Liv Morgan may have realized that Dominik Mysterio is wooable. And while not quite as wooable as Dominik, Finn Balor and JD McDonough may also be able to be manipulated. You know, Finn Balor looking at Damian Priest and missing the fact, he said it on television, missing the fact that he isn't teaming with Damian Priest anymore, not enjoying the fact that they're not looked at as equals anymore. JD McDonough always fighting from underneath. JD McDonough always having an insecurity over the fact that was he ever really accepted as a member of the Judgment Day. In my mind, Liv Morgan is not just stealing Dominik Mysterio. She's disrupting the entire foundation of the Judgment Day. Now, this has to happen because when Rhea Ripley comes back, she will be full-on Triple H in 2002 babyface. There's no getting around it. She was going to be that anyway. She was pretty much that after WrestleMania. But being away with an injury is only going to make her more of a good guy. Nobody's ever going to boo her. So you're going to turn the whole Judgment Day babyface? You're not turning Dominik babyface. That can never happen. And we were talking as far back as WrestleMania about the fact that post-WrestleMania, Dominik and Rhea were going to have to split. I think Damian Priest goes on the side of Rhea Ripley. I think that what we witness is Liv Morgan on her revenge tour, destroying all the things that Rhea Ripley holds sacred, except she's not able to get Damian Priest. And this relationship, this special relationship, what do they call them? The Terror Twins or something like that? This special relationship that developed between Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley remains unfractured. And the reason that I think that is, I do think that we are leading to a SummerSlam match. I do think that we are looking at Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. I think the custody of Dominik thing may be out the window by then because we're 2 months away from SummerSlam. I don't see how you could leave it up in the air as to whose side Dominik Mysterio is actually going to be on. But what else happens at SummerSlam? Aside from potentially Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, aside from whatever Finn Balor and Dominik Mysterio, what do we know is happening at SummerSlam? We know that Gunther, the King of the Ring, gets his World Heavyweight Championship match. I believe that the World Heavyweight Champion at SummerSlam will still be Damian Priest. I believe CM Punk will cost Drew McIntyre the title in Scotland. If that is the case, I believe that the steps we're seeing here, the same way that the Braun Strowman JD McDonough story was the catalyst that was needed for the final step in this part of the Dominik Mysterio Liv Morgan story, the Rhea Ripley Dominik Liv Morgan story is the final step you need to turn Damian Priest babyface so that when he faces Gunther at SummerSlam, he is the babyface champion fighting from underneath against this unstoppable monster heel. I think all of it, everything that I just said, is laid out in that one scene of Liv Morgan planting one on Dominik Mysterio. My God, what a time. What a time. I'm watching Raw, and I thought my favorite segment of the night was going to be that dramatic, tense Alpha Academy promo segment. I really enjoyed that one. But my true guttural, emotional response to everything that happened with Dominik and Liv Morgan and the fact that we actually saw it. Liv Morgan planting one on Dominik. Unbelievable. Didn't see it coming. I'm sure you didn't either, but I'm glad that we could experience it together and get our feelings out together. Don't forget, if you really want to be together, come join me in Cleveland, Ohio, the Thursday before SummerSlam. That's Thursday, August 1st, I believe, 7:30 p.m. You can get the ticket link at notsam.com. Hey, man, you got to be getting tired of my voice at this point. Post King of the Ring, Monday pod, Tuesday emergency pod. Who knows when you'll hear me next, but I'll bet it'll be sooner than later. Thanks, everybody.